Hello and welcome to the live post-match reaction of Australia against Ireland in the Women's World Cup. Australia got the 1-0 win in Sydney, a goal from Stephanie Catley from the penalty spot, the captain of Australia, to give them that 1-0 victory. For the first time, they've won their opening game of the Women's World Cup since 2007. Incredible. Really, really good display overall from both teams. Australia, although not at their very best, and they can show a lot more quality. And ultimately, the game was decided by a set piece, so the game couldn't have been that free flowing, and it wasn't free flowing mostly throughout the game. It was very stop start. It was a lot of throw ins, a lot of set pieces, but in the end, I wouldn't say that it was a boring game or a poor game or a game that neither team really deserved to win. I think Australia did deserve to win. They had a bit better of it than Ireland in the end, but Ireland gave a really good display of themselves overall. I think, to be debutantes in the World Cup, to never have made an appearance in a World Cup before, this to be your first time and to fight against the team that are the co-hosts of the competition, one of the big favourites for the competition, and ultimately a stadium, 70 odd thousand people, the vast majority of them supporting the opposition team. It is not easy for a team to do such a thing and to keep such a close scoreline and to stay in the game for as long as they did. 52 minutes Ireland held Australia, and even after that, Ireland were creating chances. They didn't give up. It wasn't full on from Australia after that 52nd minute goal. It wasn't constant attack, attack, attack. It was Ireland really took their time, reassessed it, made a few changes, and then they went on the front foot themselves and were actually creating chances themselves in the second half rather than Australia trying to go for the second, which they'd have one or two opportunities to do. But Ireland also had one or two opportunities to level it, especially at the end. There was a big chance from Katie McCabe at the very, very end of the match where Ireland had the chance to equalise it. And it all comes down to fine margins. They just about missed out. And a really positive performance for Ireland. Their first ever World Cup game. And Vera Pai and the whole squad and the whole country will be behind them because it's not an easy thing to do to come to a World Cup and to play against the host nation, or one of the host nations anyway, in in the biggest stadium in the competition. There was around 75,000, which is a record, by the way. Incredible, massive to see such great interest in the women's game. Love to see that. The growth of the women's game has been absolutely incredible over the last few years. But that's what I'm saying. Ireland, it was everything was stacked against them today. No one expected them to get a win or a draw out of the game. It was more of a hope rather than we believe it could happen. And I think at the end of the day, that's all you can do is hope, really. Australia, the co-host nation, really in good form. There was a stat I read. I just get my stats book up because I made a few stats before the game, and you know there was a lot of them. Like Australia were the first to score in 7 of the last 8 games. Australia have just lost 1 of their last 10 games, won 9, drawn none. Scotland were the only team to beat them. You know, there was a lot of those stats prior to the game, and I thought, you never know. You know, Australia have won just 1 of 9 World Cup meetings against teams from Europe. That was against Norway in 2011. There was those types of things. They haven't won their last 3 opening games in a World Cup campaign. They don't have Sam Kerr, who scored 5 times in the last 4 games in the World Cup for them. And that's the point I'm making, is that Ireland had so much stacked against them that you weren't really expecting them to get a result. And in the end, you could say that's still a positive result for them. Although it is defeat, it's still a positive performance. And Nigeria and Canada to come, yes, another two difficult teams, but a positive performance against the co-host nation Australia, who almost gave away a, a goal at the very end of the game. Katie McCabe had such a good chance to equalise it for Ireland. It would have been a devastating goal for Australia to concede after having such a hard fought game, but they did give away a couple of chances, and Ireland looked the better of the two teams, I would say, in the last 10-15 minutes. They looked the more threatening, looked the more likely to get a goal. Um, in the end, it didn't turn out like that, but I think Ireland will take a lot of positives from that game and believe that if they perform like that against Nigeria and Canada, there it's definitely ups, more ups than downs to come for Ireland in this World Cup campaign, and it will be great to watch them. They're an exciting watch. Both teams very, very exciting. Two counter-attacking teams. Two counter-attacking teams. Um, gave an end-to-end game of football and a high-quality game of football that ended in just one goal that came from a set piece. Simple as that. Another thing, Ireland actually looked really threatening from the set pieces as well. Um, in the end, but it came to nothing. Anyway, um, where do we go for Australia here? Before the game, they were touted as one of the big favourites. One of the big favourites, being a co-host nation and having such a good record in the World Cup. Eight, eight appearances in the World Cup campaigns out of nine. Only missing the very first World Cup. But you know, Australia. There's more negatives to positives for Australia here. Although they did get the win, and that's amazing, and that's all that matters. But they will be worried. They weren't at their best today. Nowhere near their best. Yes, they still got a victory, but they didn't look comfortable at all throughout that game. Ireland didn't allow them to settle. And I think if Nigeria and Canada can do so with higher quality players in Nigeria and Canada, they probably could get a result against Australia. And that's something that Australia need to be wary of because, you know, Nigeria and Canada are no pushover teams. They will fight, they will give their all, and they will, with higher quality players, probably punish you the way Ireland couldn't with the not having the experience and the top quality. Group of death for Ireland. So we will see what happens. But Australia, their next game is not till next week. They don't play until next Thursday. Ireland don't play till next Wednesday away at Canada, and Australia have Nigeria. So we'll see what those two teams can do in their next game and whether they can get different results and what way the results turn out in the next games. But so far, a very, very good start to the Women's World Cup. Incredible start to our season here on LFS. Right, we will be back with the USA Vietnam game tomorrow on Saturday at 2 a.m. in the morning for that one. So do join us for that.